The city was alive with noise and movement, yet at the top of the tallest building sat a man who felt no connection to the world below. His name was known in every business magazine, in every financial newspaper, in every boardroom where power was traded. He was the CEO, a figure of discipline, precision, and relentless drive. He had built an empire from nothing. His face was always calm, his tone always steady. But behind those sharp eyes there was a silence so heavy that even victories felt hollow. Each day was measured by numbers rising and falling, by contracts signed, by strategies discussed. His desk was stacked with files, his calendar filled with meetings, and his phone buzzing constantly. Yet despite the endless activity, his soul was still. His mornings started with the same routine: coffee, news, silence. His nights ended in a vast penthouse overlooking the city lights. But no laughter filled those rooms. No footsteps echoed down the halls. No voice called his name. It was success, yes, but also isolation, a gilded cage. On one particular afternoon, a deal had fallen through, tempers had risen. Voices clashed. He had kept his composure, but the tension stayed with him long after the meeting ended. He stared out at the skyline and felt an emptiness gnawing so sharp he could not ignore it. For once he dismissed his driver and decided to walk. He stepped out of the tower, blending into the crowd, though no one recognized him, for beneath his tailored suit he was simply another man searching for something unseen. His footsteps led him without intention to a small park he remembered walking through as a boy, when life had been simple, when joy was found in chasing a ball or climbing a tree. Now he stood still at the gates, watching children dart across the grass, their laughter ringing like music. Parents calling after them, couples holding hands. The air was filled with warmth, a warmth he had not felt in years. As he watched, a small tug pulled at the sleeve of his jacket. He looked down, surprised to see a little girl with big, curious eyes. She could not have been more than 6. She looked at him not with fear, not with shyness, but with a quiet boldness that only innocence carries. She said softly, "Mommy needs a smile. Will you help her?" Her voice was gentle, yet it cut straight into his chest. He followed her gaze to a nearby bench where a woman sat, her shoulders hunched, her head bowed. She looked as though the world had pressed down upon her. The CEO hesitated, but the girl tugged again, insisting he come with her. Without thinking, he allowed himself to be guided across the grass, her small hand warm against his cold palm. When they reached the bench, the woman lifted her face, startled to see him. Her eyes were red from tears. She tried to wipe them quickly, embarrassed, but the little girl clutched his hand tighter, repeating, "Mommy needs a smile." Something stirred deep inside him, something he had buried beneath years of ambition. He looked at the woman and let a genuine smile spread across his face, not the practiced one he used in meetings, but a soft and honest smile. For a moment the woman seemed surprised, then slowly, as if testing herself, she smiled back. It was fragile but real. The CEO felt the girl squeeze his hand as though she knew a bridge had been built between strangers. They sat together in silence, the sounds of children playing around them, the rustle of leaves, the glow of the late afternoon sun. Everything seemed suspended in that moment. He could have walked away after that, yet something inside him refused to return to the coldness of his tower. The next day, he found himself walking back to the park at the same time, wondering if the girl and her mother would be there when he saw them sitting again in their spot. He felt an unexplainable relief. He joined them hesitantly at first, but soon conversation began. The woman spoke softly about her daughter, about her days, about her struggles, though she never complained openly. He learned her husband had died suddenly, leaving her alone with debts and responsibilities. She worked tirelessly at a small shop, trying to provide for her child. Though the burden often weighed heavy, she still managed to smile for her daughter. The CEO listened more than he spoke, something unusual for a man used to commanding attention. The little girl, meanwhile, filled the air with chatter about her drawings, her favorite stories, her dreams. She would laugh at the smallest things, and each time he felt his chest lighten. Days turned into weeks. He found himself drawn to them again and again. It was not pity. It was not obligation. It was simply a sense of belonging. Something he had not felt in decades. He began helping in quiet ways, bringing groceries, fixing things around their small apartment, always discreet, never boastful. He enjoyed simple dinners at their modest table more than the most extravagant banquets of his world. The little girl grew attached to him. She would run into his arms when he arrived, her laughter filling the air. She called him her second best friend after her mommy. He would chuckle each time, but secretly the words filled a void he had carried for so long. He taught her small lessons about kindness and patience, and in return she taught him how to laugh again. One evening, as the three of them walked home together, the sky painted in colors of dusk, the woman looked at him and asked softly, "Why do you spend time with us? You have everything you could ever want. Why us?" He paused before answering. "I thought I had everything, but now I realize I had nothing until I met you and your daughter." She stopped in her tracks, her eyes filled with unshed tears. This time, not of sorrow, but of something gentler, deeper. The little girl turned and tugged his hand again. Smiling wide, she repeated the same words from that first day. "Mommy needs a smile." The CEO knelt down, hugged her tightly, and whispered, "You gave me more than a smile, you gave me life." From that day on, their lives intertwined. He was no longer the lonely man in the tower, though he still ran his company. His evenings were no longer empty. He would leave meetings early to walk in the park, to share dinner, to listen to bedtime stories. The walls of his penthouse no longer echoed with silence because he preferred the warmth of their small home. Laughter echoed in his ears. Love filled his heart. As seasons changed, their bond deepened. He supported the woman, quietly helping her rebuild her life. She in turn reminded him of humanity, of simplicity, of love not bought by power or wealth, but given freely. The little girl remained their brightest light, her innocence reminding them both of what truly mattered. The CEO learned that true success was not measured by stock markets or profit margins, but by the warmth of a smile, the trust of a child, the strength of a woman who had endured hardship and still managed to love. He had been touched by a small hand on a quiet afternoon, and that single touch had rewritten the story of his life forever.